Imagine being hunted relentlessly, never knowing if the next phone call, letter, or stranger you encounter might be part of an elaborate plot to ruin your life. What drives a person to risk everything to expose the truth? What happens when the hunter becomes the hunted? Imagine living in constant fear, never knowing if the next knock at your door might be the prelude to another harrowing ordeal. This was the terrifying reality for Paulette Cooper, a fearless journalist whose quest for truth plunged her into a shadowy world of espionage and terror. She dared to take on one of the world's most secretive and powerful organizations, the Church of Scientology. Her groundbreaking book, The Scandal of Scientology, unveiled the inner workings and alleged abuses within the church, igniting a firestorm of public interest and scrutiny. But with her revelations came a sinister response. Cooper became the target of Scientology's infamous fairgame policy, a chilling doctrine that sanctioned any means necessary to destroy the enemies of the church. Fake bomb threats, smear campaigns, and attempts to frame her for crimes she didn't commit. How far would Scientology go to silence her? The goal was clear: to silence Paulette Cooper and obliterate her credibility. Yet, despite the overwhelming pressure and life-threatening dangers, Cooper's resolve never wavered. Her story is not one of survival, but of unyielding commitment to the truth, showcasing the extraordinary lengths one woman would go to stand against a powerful and ruthless adversary. Join us as we delve into the harrowing story of Paulette Cooper, a journalist who took on Scientology. Prepare yourself as we examine the infamous fair game policy in action. I'm Sandy McKenna, and along with Abraham Ulrich, welcome to the Sins of Scientology.
Paula Paulette Cooper was born on July 26, 1942 in Antwerp, Belgium during the turmoil of World War II. Her parents were Polish Jews who had migrated to Antwerp in the late 1920s, seeking a better life. Her father was a skilled leather worker and her mother was a homemaker. Despite the growing anti-Semitic environment in Europe, the family had established a relatively stable life in Belgium. However, their lives were shattered by the war. 4 days before Paulette's birth, her father was arrested by Nazi officials. Her mother was taken into custody in October of the same year. Tragically, both parents would later perish in Auschwitz concentration camp. In the immediate aftermath of her parents' arrests, family friends took drastic measures to protect Paulette and her older sister Sarah. They kept the two young girls in hiding, moving them from place to place to avoid detection by the Nazis. Despite their efforts, Nazi troops eventually discovered the girls. In the morning of 1943, just as they were about to be sent to Auschwitz, friends of their father and other benefactors intervened. Through a series of bribes to Nazi officials, they secured the girls' release. This act of bravery and compassion saved Paulette and Sarah from almost a certain death. Cooper herself was saved by a Catholic charity organization that placed her and Sarah in an orphanage. The post-war years were filled with instability as Paulette spent time in various orphanages in Belgium. Eventually, Sarah, who would later be known as Susie, was adopted by an aunt. Unfortunately, this aunt could not afford to support both sisters, so Paulette remained in the orphanage system. At the age of 6, Paulette's life took a drastic turn when she was adopted by an American Jewish couple, Ted and Sarah Cooper. The Coopers brought her to the United States where they all settled in New York City. Here, Paulette found the stability and support she had been missing. She was raised in a loving household and began to thrive academically and socially. Paulette attended public schools in New York where she quickly distinguished herself as an intelligent and curious student. Her traumatic early years did not hinder her academic performance. Rather, they seemed to fuel her determination to succeed. She went on to attend Brandeis University in Waltham, Massachusetts, earning a bachelor's degree in psychology. Her time at Brandeis was formative, solidifying her interest in writing and investigative journalism. During a summer study program of comparative religion at Harvard University, Cooper's interest in new religious movements was piqued. This curiosity would later lead her to one of the most significant and challenging investigations of her career, After graduation, she returned to Harvard for several months to work on a schizophrenia study, further honing her research skills. She later earned a master's degree from the City College of New York. Professionally, Cooper distinguished herself in the advertising industry, working for prestigious agencies such as Batten, Barton, Durstein and Osborne, BBDO. Despite her success in copywriting, she was drawn to the dynamic world of magazine writing. By the age of 26, she had already sold stories to prominent publications like TV Guide, Cosmopolitan, and The Washington Post. Her adventurous spirit was evident in her work, including a notable piece where she documented her experience as the first female stowaway on a cruise liner, gaining significant media attention. Her early work demonstrated a strong commitment to uncovering the truth and a willingness to tackle controversial subjects. The traumatic experiences of her early childhood and her status as a Holocaust survivor profoundly influenced her outlook on life. These experiences instilled in her a deep sense of justice and a drive to expose wrongdoing. Paulette's adoption by the Coopers provided her with the stability and support she needed to pursue her ambitions. The challenges she faced growing up fostered resilience and courage that would be crucial in her later battles with the Church of Scientology. Her background gave her a unique perspective on the importance of standing up against powerful entities and speaking out against injustices. This commitment to truth and justice, shaped by her early experiences, drove her to pursue and expose controversial subjects, ultimately leading her to the infamous clash with Scientology. Paulette Cooper's early life is a testament to her extraordinary resilience and determination. From surviving the horrors of the Holocaust to excelling academically and professionally, she has shown an unwavering commitment to uncovering the truth and fighting against injustice. Her story is an inspiring example of how one's early experiences can shape and drive their life's work, making her a notable figure in the history of investigative journalism.
To understand the Church of Scientology's relentless pursuit of Paulette Cooper, it's essential to delve into the origins and evolution of their aggressive defense mechanisms. Scientology's founder, L.ron Hubbard, created a complex organizational structure designed to protect the church from critics and external threats. In the early 1960s, Hubbard established the Guardian's Office, a dedicated intelligence unit tasked with safeguarding Scientology's secrets. The Guardian's Office mandate was to conduct espionage, gather intelligence on perceived enemies, and execute covert operations to discredit and neutralize critics. Mary Sue Hubbard, L.ron Hubbard's wife, was appointed to lead this powerful arm of the church. One of the foundational tactics developed by the Guardian's Office was to use lawsuits to intimidate and bankrupt opponents. Scientology's legal strategy was simple: overwhelm critics with a barrage of legal actions to drain their financial resources and wear them down emotionally. The approach, known as legal harassment, became a cornerstone of the church's defense strategy. Additionally, the Guardian's Office pioneered the practice of gathering and storing extensive dossiers on individuals they perceived as threats. These dossiers included personal information, private correspondence, and any potential vulnerabilities that could be exploited. The aim was to build comprehensive profiles that could be used to blackmail or publicly discredit their targets. A pivotal moment in the development of Scientology's defensive tactics came with the introduction of the fairgame policy in the mid-1960s. This policy explicitly sanctioned actions against enemies of the church, stating that they could be tricked, sued, lied to, or destroyed without any repercussions within the organization. This aggressive stance provided a framework for the Guardian's Office operations against critics like Paulette Cooper. The Guardian's Office activities were not confined to the United States. Internationally, the Guardian's Office operated with similar intensity, employing private investigators, conducting surveillance, and engaging in covert operations to protect the church's reputation. Their global reach ensured that critics around the world faced significant risks when speaking out against Scientology. In 1967, the Church of Scientology found itself embroiled in a significant controversy in the United Kingdom. The British government, alarmed by reports of abusive practices within Scientology, launched an investigation. The ensuing inquiry led to the banning of foreign Scientologists from entering the UK and a public outcry against the church's practices. This international scrutiny only heightened Scientology's resolve to clamp down on critics. As the Guardian's office methods grew more sophisticated, they began infiltrating government agencies, law firms, and even media to gain insider information and influence public perception. Their operatives, often disguised as legitimate employees or volunteers, worked to gather intelligence to disrupt the activities of those deemed hostile to Scientology. These tactics set the stage for Scientology's intense focus on Paulette Cooper. Her investigative work and subsequent book, The Scandal of Scientology, triggered a full-scale operation by the Guardian's office to silence her. Understanding the roots and development of these tactics helps to contextualize the lengths Scientology would go to protect its image and interests.
Paulette Cooper's journey into the world of Scientology began after hearing disturbing stories from former members. She spent years researching and interviewing ex-members, which resulted in her book, The Scandal of Scientology. This book exposed many of the church's controversial practices and made her a prime target for retaliation. Paulette Cooper's journey to writing her book is a story of curiosity, dedication, and immense personal risk. Here are the harrowing details of this groundbreaking expose. Cooper first encountered Scientology in the late 1960s. Her interest in Scientology began with a disturbing visit from a former colleague. This man claimed that through his involvement with Scientology, he had learned he was the reincarnation of Jesus Christ. He then announced, quote, "God has decided to rape you," end quote. But Cooper managed to get him out of her apartment without incident. She called a former boyfriend who had experimented with Scientology and told him about the visitor's claim. "Maybe he really is," the ex-boyfriend replied. Cooper, thinking she may have stumbled on an intriguing story subject, signed up for an introductory communication course at the local org. Between sessions, she explored the facilities, asking questions and even taking several documents from an office. One document listed people deemed suppressive persons as enemies of Scientology. She began work on a Scientology article in earnest, driven by her journalistic instinct. Paulette began to interview former church members. Cooper learned much about the organization's internal methods of control and the harassment of those who left. She later said of her motivation to write about Scientology, quote, "I had a master's degree in psychology and had studied comparative religion at Harvard for a summer. And what I learned during my research about the group founded by L.ron Hubbard was both fascinating and frightening. The story cried out to be told," end quote. Through interviews with former church members, Cooper gained deep insights into the organization's internal methods of control and the harassment faced by those who left. The 1963 raid on the Washington, D.C. church by the United States Food and Drug Administration, FDA, during which agents and police seized thousands of documents, provided Cooper with additional information. She also obtained a copy of the Anderson Report, a 1965 indictment from the Australian state of Victoria, which denounced the church's methods as psychologically abusive and recommended banning it. The church's reputation for litigiousness made many publications hesitant to cover Scientology stories. Nevertheless, London's Queen magazine included Cooper's article, The Tragic Farce of Scientology, in its December 1969 issue, which was the magazine's final issue before merging with Harper's Bazaar. The article primarily addressed the harassments of Scientology critics and the first to explore sexual misconduct by the church's auditors. Shortly after this publication, Cooper received 2 anonymous death threats via telephone, warning her to stop writing about Scientology. Cooper embarked on an extensive journey. She interviewed dozens of former Scientologists who had left the church, often hearing harrowing tales of manipulation, abuse, and exploitation. She also gathered documents, internal church materials, and testimonies that shed light on the inner workings of Scientology. Writing The Scandal of Scientology was fraught with challenges. Cooper faced intense pressure and threats from the church. Scientology's aggressive tactics included legal threats and harassment aimed at intimidating her to silence. Despite these challenges, Cooper completed her manuscript, The Scandal of Scientology was published in 1971. The book provided a comprehensive look at the church's history, practices, and the experiences of its former members. It was one of the first critical books about Scientology and quickly drew significant attention.
The Church of Scientology quickly branded Paulette Cooper as an enemy. They launched a campaign of harassment, including numerous lawsuits threatening phone calls and physical surveillance aiming to silence her and discredit her work. Cooper became the target of a relentless harassment campaign by the Church of Scientology. This campaign included numerous lawsuits, smear campaigns, and even efforts to frame her for crimes she didn't commit, as revealed by Operation Freakout. By early 1971, following the publication of her book, Cooper was being targeted by the Guardian's office. According to the church, OSA, or Office of Special Affairs, is responsible for directing legal affairs and public relations, pursuing investigations, publicizing the church's social betterment works, and overseeing the social reform programs. When the Guardian's office heard about Cooper's book, they tried to stop its publication through various means. While on assignment in Scotland for a travel story, Paulette Cooper experienced the terrifying reality of being stalked by dozens of strangers. Some followed her, took photographs, or made harassing phone calls. The intimidation even began before she set foot in Scotland. David Gaiman, a member of the Church of Scientology's Guardian's office, greeted her at the airport with fake legal documents for libel. In early 1972, an external memo from the Guardian's office labeled Cooper as an unhandled attacker of Scientology, signaling an escalation in their harassment campaign. They dug deep into her personal history, scrutinizing her past, her private life, and even her college records. Cooper was subjected to a barrage of obscene and threatening phone calls. Damage to her telephone lines suggested her conversations were being monitored. In March of that year, desperate to end the harassment, Cooper filed a $15.4 million lawsuit against the New York Church of Scientology. However, that same month, she found herself named as one of 18 defendants in another lawsuit by the church, which claimed that there was a conspiracy to produce Robert Kaufman's book, Inside Scientology. The lawsuit also connected her with L.ron Hubbard Jr., the defector son of Scientology's founder. Together, they wrote an expose titled A Look Inside Scientology, which they discussed on various media platforms. Internal documents from the Guardian's office revealed plans to sabotage Cooper's father's Ted's finances and diamond business to cut off her financial support. Cooper's phone was briefly disconnected by an imposter, and a defamatory pamphlet accused her of sexual misconduct and writing pornography, further hindering her ability to get work. Under her lawyer's advice, Cooper began documenting the harassment in 1972 to support her lawsuit.
The Guardian's office harassment reached a new level with Operation Dynamite, launched in 1972. This operation aimed to have Paulette Cooper committed to a mental institution. A series of suspicious events unfolded in December of that year, incorporating elements that would later be proven as fair game tactics by the Church of Scientology's Guardian's office. On December 6, Cooper signed a petition handed to her by a canvasser named Margie. On December 8th, the Church of Scientology New York received the first of two poorly written bomb threats and reported Cooper to the FBI as the prime suspect. On December 13th, the second bomb threat was hand-delivered to the church. On December 15th, Cooper moved to a new apartment. 4 days later, on December 19th, Cooper's cousin was attacked by an armed intruder in her old apartment. These events were later proven to be orchestrated by the Guardian's office as part of their harassment campaign. By February 1973, anonymous flyers accusing Paulette Cooper of sexual perversions, including pedophilia, appeared in her apartment building. Cooper suspected her ex-boyfriend from BBDO had provided false information to the church, as the accusations mirrored an incident involving a church auditor that Cooper had investigated earlier. Soon after, Cooper was subpoenaed by a federal grand jury, learning she was the prime suspect in the bomb threats. The prosecution presented evidence linking her fingerprints to the bomb threat letters and connections to her typewriter. Cooper suspected L.ron Hubbard Jr. had provided information and possibly planted her fingerprints, as he had access to her typewriter. The smear campaign persisted, In March, defamatory letters were sent out targeting Cooper's parents' family-owned business. Similar threats were sent to her boyfriend, ending their relationship. On May 17, 1973, Cooper was indicted. The Guardian's office campaign against her, now dubbed Operation Lovely, continued. While awaiting trial, Cooper leaned on her friends, two of whom were secret Scientology agents. Margie, the canvasser, introduced her to Paula, and Jerry, who was now living with her as her roommate, was keeping close tabs on her and frequently reporting back to the Guardian's office. One memo suggested that if Cooper became suicidal, it would be beneficial to Scientology. Jerry repeatedly tried to get Cooper to stand on the ledge of their 33rd floor apartment. He disappeared after she confronted him about his true identity. Despite the immense pressure, Cooper never went to trial. She made a deal with the U.S. Attorney's Office, admitting no guilt. On September 16, 1975, the case was formally dropped. Cooper's exoneration came in 1977 when the FBI raided Scientology offices and uncovered documents detailing the operations against her. Cooper had finally been vindicated. However, these well-known incidents were only part of the largest sustained effort by the Church of Scientology to discredit and destroy Cooper. Other documented attempts included numerous frivolous lawsuits against Cooper aimed at draining her financially and emotionally. Cooper was placed under constant surveillance. Private investigators hired by the church followed her, gathering information to use against her. The church spread rumors and false information about Cooper, accusing her of criminal activities and immoral behavior. This included calling her employers and social circles to spread these lies. Cooper's family and friends were not spared. They received threatening phone calls and defamatory letters. Her relationships were systematically targeted to isolate her. Scientology operatives infiltrated her social circles and professional networks. Trusted friends and associates were revealed to be secret agents reporting back to the church. Efforts were made to ruin Cooper financially, including tampering with her financial records and creating bogus debt in her name. The church employed psychological tactics to destabilize Cooper, including anonymous death threats and unnerving late-night phone calls. Beyond the mob threat letters, there were other attempts to frame Cooper for various crimes, including false reports to the police about her alleged illegal activities. Cooper's home was repeatedly vandalized and she experienced break-ins where sensitive documents were stolen or tampered with. The church attempted to defame Cooper through various media channels, planting negative stories and paying journalists to write hit pieces on her. Cooper's bravery and determination have been widely recognized. She is often cited as one of the key figures who brought to light the darker aspects of Scientology, inspiring other journalists and former members to speak out. Paulette Cooper's decision to write The Scandal of Scientology was a courageous and pioneering effort. Her meticulous research and willingness to face significant personal risks helped expose the controversial practices of Scientology.
Scientology's most infamous operation against Cooper was Operation Freakout. This covert plan aimed to have Cooper imprisoned or committed to a psychiatric hospital. The church orchestrated a series of actions, including sending anonymous bomb threats in her name and fabricating evidence to frame her for crimes she didn't commit. The Church of Scientology's harassment of Paulette Cooper persisted into 1974, taking increasingly invasive and personal forms. Her father's office received copies of pages from her teenage diary, which she still had in her possession, indicating the church had somehow accessed her private writings. In early 1975, Guardian's office agents broke into the office of Cooper's college psychiatrist and stole her records. Later that year, Cooper began receiving copies of these medical records in the mail from anonymous senders. The church was compiling an extensive internal report on her. L.ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, was reportedly fixated on Cooper. Bill Franks, a former Scientologist tasked with dismantling the Guardian's office after its leaders were imprisoned, recounted Hubbard's paranoia. Bill Franks said, and I quote, "He thought she was working for every group he could imagine that was against Scientology. He just thought she was an anarchist." In 1975, Hubbard was overheard angrily referring to her as that bitch Paulette Cooper. In 1976, frustrated by their inability to silence Cooper, Hubbard and his Guardian Office operatives devised a new elaborate campaign to discredit her. Known as Operation Freakout, the plan aimed to have Cooper incarcerated in a mental institution or jail, or at least to hit her so hard that she drops her attacks. This ambitious plot involved staging multiple coordinated incidents using imposters, false reports, and planted items. Central to the scheme was a series of bomb threat letters, one of which was to be sent to an Arab embassy and filled with inflammatory remarks about the treatment of Israel. Another letter was to be addressed to the Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger. A key element in the campaign was to obtain Cooper's fingerprints on a piece of paper to frame her. Cooper became suspicious of such attempts when a stranger approached her in a bar with a clipboard. Around the same time, she discovered that someone impersonating her had made phone calls to her friends. Ultimately, Operation Freakout was never fully implemented. Cooper may have disrupted the plan by moving to Los Angeles to assist with her defense in the Church of Scientology lawsuit. An affidavit by a former Scientologist alleged that in 1977 the church was plotting to assassinate Cooper. However, despite extensive Guardian's Office documentation on the attempts to ruin her life and reputation, no other sources corroborate this claim.
Throughout her tumultuous conflict with the Church of Scientology, Paulette Cooper faced an overwhelming barrage of legal actions. The church sued her 19 times in various courts around the globe, while Cooper launched 3 countersuits in response. One of the pivotal cases, Church of Scientology of California versus Paulette Cooper, was filed in December 1971 in the Los Angeles Superior Court. The church alleged that Cooper's book, The Scandal of Scientology, contained untrue, libelous, and defamatory statements about Scientology. Although the case was set for trial in 1976, the book's publisher had settled separately with the church by then. Despite having a robust defense, Cooper, exhausted and longing for an end to the litigations, chose to settle. On December 5, 1976, she signed a deal surrendering the copyright of her book to the church and agreeing to refrain from public commentary on it. In return, the church dropped all remaining lawsuits against her. In the lead-up to this settlement, Scientologists actively sought to influence proceedings. Dozens of church members frequently camped outside Cooper's lawyer's office and crowded the courtroom to sway the lawyer and judge in the church's favor. A significant turn of events occurred on July 8, 1977, when the FBI raided Church of Scientology facilities in Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles. This was in response to Operation Snow White, a church initiative to gather intelligence and steal documents from federal agencies. Among the documents seized were detailed records of various illegal activities, prompting the FBI to seek Cooper's assistance with their investigation. During her cooperation with the FBI, Cooper discovered a photo of her disappeared friend Paula, confirming she was a church agent. In April 1978, the Washington Post published a pair of articles based on the seized documents. One article by Ron Schaefer detailed Cooper's frame-up. Schaefer wrote, quote, "The attack and destroy campaign carried out by the Church of Scientology's Guardian's Office to silence critics has involved illegal surveillance, burglaries, forgeries, and many forms of harassment, according to sources close to an intensive federal investigation of the Church of Scientology's activities." End quote. The Church of Scientology of California falsely accused Cooper of contributing to these articles, claiming it violated the terms of their 1976 settlement. Consequently, the church filed yet another lawsuit against her on May 5, 1978, followed by a similar lawsuit from the New York church the next month. Cooper countersued in both cases. On March 9, 1981, Cooper sued the Boston Church and L.ron Hubbard and Mary Sue Hubbard for $25 million. In August, the church filed its 18th lawsuit against her, this time for allegedly discouraging celebrity support of a benefit auction for a new celebrity center in Los Angeles. Around this period, a shift in the church leadership prompted efforts to resolve all outstanding legal disputes. Finally, in February 1985, Cooper settled with the church for an undisclosed amount. Even after the settlement, the church made bizarre attempts to bribe Cooper to spy for them. This decade-long legal warfare exemplifies the relentless harassment Cooper faced. Each lawsuit was a part of a broader strategy to exhaust her resources and discredit her. The impact on her life was profound, affecting her financially, emotionally, and professionally. Despite these pressures, Cooper's resilience and determination to expose the truth never wavered. Her ability to navigate this legal labyrinth, coupled with the unwavering commitment to justice, ultimately helped her expose the Church of Scientology tactics to the world. Cooper's experience sheds light on the lengths to which powerful organizations can go to silence their critics. Her story is a testament to the importance of investigative journalism and the courage it takes to stand up against a formidable adversary. Her perseverance not only vindicated her, but also inspired others to speak out against similar injustices. The legal battles, although exhausting, became a pivotal part of Cooper's legacy. They highlighted the extensive measures the Church of Scientology was willing to take to protect its image and silence detractors. Cooper's victory in these battles served as a crucial turning point in the public's understanding of the Church's operations and reinforced the crucial role of a free press in holding powerful institutions accountable.
Following the final legal settlement with the Church of Scientology in 1985, Paulette Cooper went silent about the organization for some time. The Church's aggressive legal responses to a 1991 Time magazine article led the mainstream media to steer clear of Scientology stories for nearly 15 years. During this period, however, alt-religion Scientology, ARS, emerged on Usenet, revealing secret church teachings. In 1995, an ARS regular posted the full text of Cooper's book, The Scandal of Scientology, online. Cooper occasionally contributed to ARS and other online platforms as she began reconnecting with journalists covering Scientology. In the 2000s, interest in Scientology resurfaced in the mainstream media, partly due to the actions of celebrity member Tom Cruise. Cooper authored an article titled The Scandal of Scientology, which was published in 2007 by Byline magazine, a publication of the New York Press Club. In 2011, The Village Voice detailed Cooper's experience with Scientology, sparking renewed media attention. That same year, Cooper discovered that a Vanity Fair journalist she trusted had secretly worked for the church for more than 2 decades, spying on her. In May 2015, Tony Ortega, then a writer for The Village Voice, published a biography of Cooper titled The Unbreakable Miss Lovely, How the Church of Scientology Tried to Destroy Paulette Cooper. Cooper remains vocal about the Church of Scientology and is highly respected by online activists, ex-Scientologists, and others. In the mid-2000s, a loosely organized collection known as Anonymous emerged from the depths of the internet forums to take a bold stand against the Church of Scientology. The group, initially known for its internet pranks and activism, began to focus more on serious issues, with Scientology becoming a prime target. Their campaign against the church, dubbed Project Chanology, gained international attention and marked a significant chapter in the ongoing struggle against Scientology's controversial practices. In addition to peaceful demonstrations and online campaigns, Anonymous employed several other specific tactics to protest against Scientology. Anonymous targeted Scientology's internal documents and information, aiming to expose the church's practices to the public. They hacked into Scientology's systems and leaked confidential documents revealing the church's internal communications and strategies. Anonymous produced and distributed various multimedia content, including videos, images, and articles to raise awareness about Scientology's practices. They utilized platforms like YouTube, social media, and various forums to disseminate this information widely. Members of Anonymous organized phone and fax campaigns to flood Scientology centers with calls and faxes, disrupting their operations. These campaigns were designed to be non-violent but highly disruptive, drawing attention to the movement's grievances. Anonymous members created protest art, including posters, flyers, and banners, often featuring Guy Fawkes masks and anti-Scientology messages. They also staged performances and street theater during protests to engage the public and media. Anonymous organized flash mobs and guerrilla protests where members would quickly gather at Scientology centers and public places, perform a coordinated protest action, and then disperse. These surprise actions were designed to be highly visible and catch Scientology off guard. Anonymous members handed out flyers, pamphlets, and other informational materials to the public, educating them about Scientology's alleged abuses. They often set up booths or information tables in public spaces to engage passers-by in conversation about the issues. Although not universally endorsed by all members of Anonymous, some factions carried out distributed denial of service (DDoS) attacks on Scientology website, temporarily disrupting their online presence. These cyber attacks were intended to draw attention to the movement's grievances and showcase their technical prowess. These diverse tactics helped Anonymous maintain pressure on Scientology and keep the issue in the public eye. They created and sustained a multifaceted campaign against the church by leveraging online and offline methods. A central figure who became an emblematic inspiration for Anonymous was Paulette Cooper, whose life had been profoundly impacted by Scientology's aggressive tactics. Fast forward to the mid-2000s when Anonymous began to mobilize against Scientology. The group organized global protests utilizing the internet to coordinate their efforts and spread awareness. They wore Guy Fawkes masks to maintain anonymity and symbolize resistance against tyranny. Anonymous targeted Scientology's alleged human rights abuses, financial exploitation, and aggressive tactics against critics. Paulette Cooper's story became a rallying cry for Anonymous. Her experiences were frequently referenced in the group's propaganda and during protests, serving as a powerful example of Scientology's extreme measures to silence dissent. Cooper's ordeal underscored the importance of the movement's mission and provided historical context for their activism. Cooper herself supported Anonymous's efforts. In interviews and public statements, she praised the group's courage and dedication to exposing the truth about Scientology. She expressed gratitude for their efforts in bringing renewed attention to the church's injustices, which had continued relatively unchecked for decades. Her endorsement lent credibility to the movement and inspired a new generation of activists to stand up against Scientology's tactics. Anonymous employed various strategies, from peaceful demonstrations outside Scientology centers to their online campaigns that disseminated information about the church's practices. The group effectively drew public and media attention, leading to increased scrutiny of Scientology's activities. The protests also highlighted the ongoing struggles of individuals like Paulette Cooper, who faced persecution for speaking out. Paulette Cooper's involvement with Anonymous highlighted the enduring impact of her investigative work and her unwavering commitment to justice. Her story intertwined with the efforts of Anonymous. It helped maintain a spotlight on Scientology's controversial practices and supported a broader call for accountability and reform. This account of Paulette Cooper and the Anonymous movement underscores her significant role in galvanizing support and awareness, reinforcing the importance of standing up against injustices regardless of personal cost.
As we reflect on the harrowing journey of Paulette Cooper, it's clear that her story is not just about the battle with a powerful organization, but also about the resilience of the human spirit. Cooper's unwavering dedication to exposing the truth, despite the overwhelming odds and relentless persecutions against her, serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of fearless journalism. Paulette's legacy continues to inspire journalists, activists, and former Scientologists who dare to speak out against injustices. Her courage and determination have left an indelible mark in the history of investigative journalism and have contributed significantly to the ongoing scrutiny of the Church of Scientology and its practices. In today's world, where the freedom of the press and the pursuit of truth are more critical than ever, Paulette Cooper's story stands as a testament to the impact one individual can have. Her fight for justice has not only brought to light the dark side of Scientology, but has also paved the way for others to continue the quest for transparency and accountability. By understanding her journey, you, our listeners, are equipped with a deeper understanding of the Church of Scientology and its practices, empowering you to make informed decisions and support transparency. This episode has given you a deeper understanding of Paulette Cooper's extraordinary courage and the lengths she went to expose the truth. As always, we encourage our listeners to remain vigilant, question the status quo, and support those who bravely seek to uncover hidden truth. Your role in this, as informed and engaged listeners, is crucial in fostering a society that values truth and transparency. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Your participation and engagement are invaluable to us. If you have any questions about this episode or ideas about future episodes, we'd love to hear from you.
Coming up in episode 5 of Sins of Scientology, a story of power, loyalty, and tragic loss. Herbert Jentzsch, the charismatic president of the Church of Scientology International, stood as a towering figure within one of the world's most controversial organizations. But behind the public facade lay a personal life filled with secrets and strife. Enter Alexander Jentzsch, Heber's son, born into the enigmatic world of Scientology. Raised under the strict doctrines of the Church, Alexander's life seemed predestined for greatness. Yet as he grew older, shadows of doubt and whispers of rebellion began to cloud his path. In this episode, we delve into the complex relationship between a father devoted to his faith and a son yearning for freedom. We'll uncover the internal battles, the moments of defiance, and the tragic end that would shock the world. What drove Alexander to the breaking point? How did the Church of Scientology respond to his cries for help? And what remains of Herbert Jentzsch, the man who once held the reins of an empire? Join us as we unravel the mystery, peeling back the layers of deception and heartbreak in a tale that is as haunting as it is true. I'm Sandy McKenna, and along with Abraham Ulrich, we thank you for tuning into this episode of Sins of Scientology. Until next time, keep questioning, keep seeking, and may your journey be as rich and enlightening as the stories you encounter.